Today what we're going to see is AI voice agents, right? What do you do with AI voice agents? You can do outbound and inbound calls, which means you can make calls and receive calls and get it answered and handled by the AI itself. Okay, so what are AI voice agents? These are agents which are AI enabled to make and receive calls in natural language. All right, so they, like it says, they can leverage advanced AI capabilities to mimic human conversations. Let's say you receive a call for credit card or a new loan or a new investment idea, right? Or any insurance. Those kind of calls mostly are AI voice agents. They don't have people nowadays calling randomly, right? It used behind the screens. You have a speech to text, text to speech, right? So what is speech to text to? These are important things, right? STT is for converting spoken words to text and then send it to AI. TTS, your text to speech, is for transferring text to a voice format so that it can be sent back to the user. We'll see all this in details. All right, don't worry about it. What else can an AI voice agent do? It can integrate with other systems to send and receive data, right? The first thing is it will send data to your AI or LLM to be able to understand the user's input and uh, generate a response automatically, right? And what else can it integrate to? It can integrate to your CRM, it can integrate to your project management tools, right? And other various other tools, your Google Sheet, Airtable, etc., etc., right? So that data can flow in and flow out. It is by default available 24/7 and does not really require a lot of people managing the calls because it can handle any number of calls because it auto scales, and it is very cost efficient because it does not require so many people to be doing this rudimentary job, right? So that is the main advantage of AI voice agents. So these are the key use cases of AI voice agents, right? Virtual receptionist, lead qualification, virtual receptionist, inbound call. You have a receptionist who can receive calls, answer trivial question and transfers, right? So those that can be done by virtual receptionist. Lead qualification is an outbound call where you call and ask the client potential lead if they would be interested in taking our services, which service you want, how much it will cost, etc., etc., right? And collect their information. Appointment scheduling is a very simple thing. Your existing user or a new client is asking for a appointment with your sales team, right? You don't need one person sitting there doing this work. Your AI voice agent can do it by itself. Hmm? Voice agents can also be used for order processing. So receive the order, give status updates over phone call, right? Reminders and follow-ups. Let's say you have a client meeting tomorrow. Your agent can actually call them and remind them, because you have a call meeting set up at this time at so and so venue. This is just a reminder, right? And follow-ups, when you're done with your meeting, you have action items coming out of your meetings, and you can actually do follow-ups. It will automatically call people and say what is the status is done on that on the due date. Okay. Surveys and feedback, of course, it's very normal. It can call after a service is done or a purchase is complete. It will automatically call and say, were you satisfied with the service provided? Are you happy with the product that you purchased, etc., etc. Those kind of service, right? So all these things and many more can be achieved using AI voice agents easily. Outbound versus inbound. What is the difference, right? Outbound calls, the purpose is usually lead generation, sales prospecting, collecting overdue payments, right? So these are calls that are made by the company, right? But made by the organization. So the business has full control over when the calls are made and what message is being sent. Okay. Now, efficiency automates high volume calling tasks that would otherwise require significant human effort. So, at the core of it, you're trying to replace human effort. And if you can replace that human, put him into something more productive, that becomes revenue generation. Now, inbound calls is when customers call you, your client calls you, I want support, I want status of my order, right? Or with any technical questions, or I want to set up a meeting with your sales team or your customer support. So those kind of calls, when somebody calls into your company, is called an inbound call. Now, it is by default 24/7 available because your customer might call anytime, and if you're actually a global business, you can expect people calling you at different time zones, right? From different time zones. So in that case also, it is efficient if you have 24/7 agent running, right? So it by default it is 24/7. Okay, and this is because you have an AI already in place and it can actually understand what the question is and provide an answer. That is what its intent recognition. All right, now this is your general workflow of how your AI voice agent would actually work. So call starts. When does the call start? Whenever you get an inbound call or you make an outbound call. You dial a number and then you start talking. That becomes your outbound. So whenever the call begins, the first step is your caller's input. Your whatever your caller says, that becomes your input, right? So first step is STT, speech to text. That is where you convert your caller's message from voice to text, and then this text is then passed over to your natural language processing, NLP, right? Which is of course your GPT, Claude, whatever. Okay, so you send it there. There it will understand the intent, the context, and key information. Okay, and then it will generate a response if it already knows. Otherwise, it would send it to CRM, calendar, database, because depending on what is requested by the user there, you send it to the respective tool or platform to get the information, right? So if they're asking for a status or meeting, right? So you'll send it here. In fact, they miss out a very critical point here: knowledge base, right? Knowledge base also falls here. So based on the input here, they go and search the knowledge base also for a response to be generated. So that is what happens here. So generate a response, right? Intelligent language model like GPT formulates a coherent and contextual appropriate response. All right. So this response is again text. So then you have to use a TTS converter, which is text to speech converter for generating the actual speech, which can be sent to your user or caller. So you play the response to the caller and then loop until the conversation ends. So you send a response and then this guy again asks another question or there's a follow-up. You go through the process here again, right? STT to AI processing to business logic, generate response, play the response, and you keep going through this loop until the conversation naturally ends, comes to an end, right? And then you log the detail and trigger the next steps. This is how typically your AI voice agent should work. All right, so let's look at the prerequisites for implementing AI voice agents, right? To be able to implement a voice agent, first thing that you need is a phone number. Okay, so you'll have to go through providers like Twilio, OneEdge, Telnix, etc. to get your phone number for routing and termination. Then you need a TTS, like I showed in the previous screen. You need a TTS, which is your text to speech engine, and then you also need a speech to text engine. Okay, similarly for AI integrations, you need your LLM, GPT, Claude, whatever, right? Your business integrations with Salesforce for your system, CRM systems, your calendar applications, or your database and knowledge base, and a call orchestration platform. So this is where Lindy AI comes into picture. There are other such platforms like VoiceFlow, Vapi, right? These are specially designed platforms which handle only voice agents. Which one? VoiceFlow and Vapi. Okay, so for a live demo, all right, I'm not going to create something new because it will take hours. So we're going to look at something that I had already designed for a client. Okay, so this is an outbound call, outbound voice agent that I had created for a client. What is the first thing that I did? All right, so the idea is that this is a screenshot of the ad table, right? Which will contain all the new leads that are getting generated. All right, so this is your client name, your business name, their phone number, your status if it is not called. Retry counts is, let's say you call once, they don't answer, then you make it as 1. So That I'll tell you why. Okay. And then when was it last attempted, and then some notes if it is required. Okay, so this is the add table that your Lindy AI will access and pull out the numbers that have to be called. So in this case, it will check for status and see if it is not called or unanswered, right? So if the status is not called or unanswered and the retry count is less than 3, it will pick up the number. Okay. So based on the status and the retry count, it will fetch the number and then run through your flow. So let's look at it. So the idea is that we trigger this workflow every 10 minutes. Okay, so every 10 minutes this flow is triggered. The first step of the flow is to search for new lead records. It goes to this add table and it checks for the status like I told you earlier, right? And the retry count for unanswered status, and it will fetch these numbers, these records. Okay. The next step, next condition is to check if there are new records to be called. Okay, so in our case, there are 3 records which have not called as status. So it will fetch these 3 numbers. So records are available right now. Okay, so in that case, it will go through the loop. So since there are 3 records that are being fetched, it will run through this loop 3 times. Okay, the first one, it will take the first record, which is here, this number, and make a phone call. So this is your Twilio app. Okay, why are we using Twilio? To make a call. You cannot make a call from, you can also make a call from Lindy, but that is now not how it was set. This was because of your client requirement. So he had some specific numbers that he bought in Twilio and he wanted that number to be used for calling. So that is why we have integrated Twilio here. Okay, this was his account, to use this number to call your his potential lead. Okay, once the call begins, it is handed over to an agent. So we are using AI agent as our voice agent. Okay, so I'm giving it a prompt saying you are so and so from so and so company, and you call businesses that have great customer reviews, blah blah blah, based on the customer's requirement. The prompt is made. So after it reads a script by default, right, it will wait for the user's response. If the person says yes, I'm interested, sure, sounds good, or similar expressions, interest, where he's showing interest, it would then pick up and ask follow-up questions. Do you want me to send you the details by WhatsApp or by email? And it would disconnect the call based on the response. Okay, so when the call is disconnected, we have a new variable that is being set. Okay, there is a new variable where it will store what was the outcome of that call. So in this particular case, it will be interested slash WhatsApp, interested slash email, based on the responses that were given by the user. But what if the user says no, not interested? So you simply politely thank them and then end the call and set the status variable to not interested. All right. And then the other conditions, they can also say they are not the decision maker, right, which is also a possibility. So different types of scenarios are explained to the AI agent. What if they say this? What if they say this? It's a very simple call, right? Script is given, you expect them to give a response. Based on the response, you either do a follow-up or you take a decision, disconnect the call, and update the status variable. Now, if the call goes unanswered, set the status variable to unanswered. Okay. So now, in order to do all this, it requires some kind of skills. So what are the skills that are given to it? 11 labs was being used, but it is not used now, so you can ignore this. But the reason 11 labs was used is because 11 labs is another platform for your text to speech conversion. Okay, it can convert text to speech, and you can select what kind of voice you want. right? So all that is available from 11 labs. So that is why it was initially connected, but we decided we don't want 11 labs. Anyways, so Lindy utilities set variable. So the set variable, see, why do you need a variable? So that a particular value is saved to it and then fetched at a later point. You're using variable to store a value and then fetch that value at a later point during your flow. Okay, and here the value, the variable that we are using is status. Okay, so every time I'm saying set the status variable to whatever value you want, because I want to use it at a later point. What other skills does it have? Twilio end call and press numbers, which means to make a call. Okay, so these are the 4 skills that was added. 11 labs is not required if you don't want it. You need variable to save the response or the actual uh, outcome of the call, right? Status variable is used to store the outcome of the call, and then Twilio for ending the call, etc., etc. So here you are updating Airtable and then you are checking if the lead was interested. How will you know if the lead was interested? Based on the status variable. We are doing a CRM update here by calling their HTTP this thing URL. Okay, so we are setting a variable. It so their CRM was not directly integrating with our system, with our Lindy AI. So we had to make an API call in order to send the data. So for that we had to create a variable, a JSON variable, which is this, where we are sending, what are we sending? We are sending name, email, phone number, status. Okay, the status is again the status field, the status variable that we used. Okay, here I'm saying you use the status field from the Airtable record because we are updating that here already. So that is how we are sending it to the CRM. Now, what happens after we do an HTTP call? There should be a response from this API saying your update was successful or it failed. Okay, if it was a failure to update their HTTP, this thing, their CRM, we send an error message, okay, to the user, to the client for whom we are designing this. And if it was successful, we send a success email. We send him all the details about a new client that was added and also send a message that we have a new lead and that lead has been added to your CRM. Okay, after this message is sent, you exit the loop and this is when you go back up to the second record. Now what happens if this call was unanswered? You don't have an output here, you have nothing here. What is your what happens to that in that case? So first of all, you are updating your record here with the status. So here we are saying in the AI agent we prompted it, if the call goes unanswered, set the status variable to unanswered, right? So that update is already done to the Airtable. What else is missing? Number of retries is missing. Okay, so we create a condition, if the lead is interested, then in that same condition we are saying if the call was unanswered, you go and update the number of retries. If it is 0, move it to 1. If it is 1, you move it to 2. So we are incrementing it by 1. Okay, this is lookup number, increment the field value by 1. So every time it goes unanswered, it will come into this side, it will satisfy this condition and do an update. So if it is 0, it will add 1 to it, it will become 1, and then it does it for 3 times. So after 3 times, it does not call that number because there's just no point. Okay, so it goes to three loops. It does the same thing for each of these numbers here. These are again test numbers only. It is not real number, but yeah. So it calls these numbers each time, and then if it is unanswered, it will update this column and this column. It will update as unanswered. Otherwise, it will update status column only with the correct status. Interested, not the decision maker, etc. Okay, so this is your very simple Very simple flow where we are not touching knowledge base. We are not, sending it to any database. We are only sending to CRM, and that too with an API call. So here, what is your AI agent taking care of? Your AI agent takes care from this step all the way till response to caller. That is why we're using AI agent. So you don't have to define all these and add all these separately, manually, not required. Your AI agent takes care of most of these things, except for, of course, business logic, right? Sometimes in business logic also, if you're able to program your AI agent that way. Okay, that is why we are using AI agent. Otherwise, we'll have to do all this individually, step by step, figure out which STT you want, figure out which GPT, this NLP you want, uh, how to get the response from your NLP, then TTS, then send it. So all these are different individual steps which your AI agent automatically can handle it. Okay. About selecting your NLP or your what is it called? Your AI. Let's see that also because I think I missed that somewhere. This is your AI agent. Where are you defining what NLP or LLM you should use? I mean, you might want to use GPT, correct? So when you go define the prompt for this AI agent, you can scroll down. You have your model selection here. This is where you define which LLM or NLP you want to use, right? In this case, I left it as default, which was Cloud Force on it. But I could select GPT-4 Mini, GPT-4, GPT-5 is also here. Lindy AI already integrated GPT-5 to this. So we can use GPT-5, GPT-5 Mini, Nano, or use Claude's various uh, agents or Gemini. Hmm? So this is where you set which LLM you want, which AI you want to use. Okay, for the correct AI to select, you use this drop down and select whichever you want, depending on your requirement, depending on the cost, etc., etc. Okay, so we are done with this. Now, I did tell you earlier that not only Lindy, there are multiple AI platforms that are available for such voice agent creation and designing. Okay. Now you tell me this, how are you browsing through the latest AI tools that are available? There are thousands of such AI platforms and tools that are created and made available for use. But how do you know which tool to use or what is the latest in that field? Let's say for AI agent, this voice AI agent, how do you know what is the latest or which is the free tool that you can use? So everybody right now only depends on ChatGPT or maybe Gemini or Claude. Okay. Now there was this toolify dot, yeah, right? Correct. So make a note of this particular platform. Okay, this is a library of thousands. I think there was a number mentioned here somewhere. Yeah, there. Hmm? 26,693 AIs. Right? This is a AI tools directory. It tells you what is free, what is not free. Under each category, what you can use. Do your research. It is very important that you do such research from time to time. Okay, so use this platform to figure out what is the latest in the industry, what is the latest in the category that you're working in, and it helps you be on top of things because in order to know the latest of what is happening in the world in terms of AI platforms, AI tools, use these platforms like toolify.ai, right? Because they help you know what is there in the market. Figure out, try it out also. It costs you nothing. Most of these tools don't cost you anything just for trying out. All right.